Well, my name's Tom Nash. I'm a DJ, also known as Hookie. And that's because I have two hooks for hands. I had lost my arms at the elbow, and I lost both my legs below the knee because I don't do things in halves.
Yeah, very nice.
And I had meningococcal about 20 years ago-ish or something like that. And I just live with prosthetics now, so I guess I'm a quad amputee, they're referred to, yeah.
Meningococcal septicemia.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the long...
That's the official
version,
title, right? Yeah, meningococcal for most.
But usually when you say meningococcal to people, they've never heard of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I usually just say car accident or, a shark
What?
got me.
No, they don't know about meningococcal.
Not
Maybe because
really.
we're in the world,
It's
Gus.
not super popular, like it's pretty... Some people do know what it is.
I mean,
but,
it is rare. There was maybe, I don't want to say it was 20 years ago, but there was a while back where it was quite prevalent, right?
Yeah,
it was
it was way more trendy around the turn of the century.
It was in the air conditioning at the aquarium, wasn't it?
It was something like that,
Was
or
that
a pool,
meningococcal?
or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it
It
was.
definitely hit Adelaide when I was in Adelaide as well. I mean, not that it hits at certain times, but the closest that, I'd like to say pretty close that we've been able to get to it is Mike Rolls, who was a guest on our podcast as well, who had meningococcal, and he said, and because he didn't have any other explanation for it, he probably just breathed in at the wrong time.
Right.
Do you have any idea of where you contracted meningococcal?
No, I don't. I mean, I remember being told at the time that it was contracted via saliva, so you could share a drink with somebody, or potentially they could cough on you. A little bit like COVID, a bit, except not aerosolized. But at the end of the day, I don't think it mattered to me where I got it.
You just got it.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do if you find out?
Yeah, go back there and go, you bastards.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did you have it in the air? Yeah, how dare you breathe on me?
Yeah.
And once, again, to go back to Mike's story, he then went on a footy trip to Tasmania from Melbourne and doesn't remember the full footy trip. He was in Tasmania for I want to say a week at least.
No, weekend. And then he woke up 3 weeks later in a coma.
Yeah,
Right.
and he's in hospital.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So he has no memory of the whole footy trip.
Was he in a coma for a bit?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
Right. See, I was as well, and I don't remember, I think, the hours before the coma, but certainly not as much as a whole weekend.
How long was your coma?
I think it was about 2 weeks.
What do you feel like when you come out of a coma?
It's very gradual, right? So it's not like the movies where someone sort of bing and like, oh God.
That's honestly what I thought it'd be like. Oh my God, I got no hands. What happened? Yeah.
No, it's very much like when you rouse after a deep sleep, and it sort of happens over a series of a few days or something like that. And I think it's very strange because you start hearing things before you open your eyes. And in my case in particular, I could hear people around me because obviously I was in hospital. I think I was on life support at the time. And I could hear people, and I couldn't really make out what they were saying, but judging by their intonation, I could know whether they were speaking to me or about me.
Yeah, okay.
And so you start to piece together that, this is not my one-bedroom apartment in Balmain.
No.
So that was the last memory you had of being in the one-bedroom apartment in Balmain?
No, it wasn't. No, I remember going to hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, so I remember I went to Balmain Hospital because that's where I lived, and then I was transferred to for lack of a better term, a proper hospital because it was a pretty serious condition. And my last memory was being in the ambulance being transferred. In fact, the absolute last memory I had was when they put you in the ambulance, they always give you a guy to sort of sit in there with. I don't know whether he's got an actual job or just make sure you don't die or something like that.
They're not don't die guy.
Yeah, the don't die guy, yeah. And he was quite sort of, I don't know whether he was serious or he was stoic or something like that. And I was trying to make him laugh because usually I do that with people when they're quite serious. And I was failing at all attempts. And then at one point I asked him, I'm like, how long until we get to the hospital? And he said, 10 minutes. And I said, 10 minutes. That's the frame of time that people give you when they have no fucking idea how long it's going to take to get anywhere, right? Because if it's close, you're more specific. Or when it's longer, it's at 10 minutes, you don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's what got him to just chuckle a bit.
Okay.
And I was like, success.
I'm on.
And then it was lights out.
And the next minute, I got no legs and arms left.
Joke's on me.
Yeah. Hey, great gag, by the way. No hands, no feet. Have a good one.
That joke cost me an arm and a leg.
Boom. Thank you. And we have found our social clip.
Very good, Hookie. Yeah. We love that. Now, do you prefer to be Hookie or Tom?
Whatever. Call me Susan if it makes you happy.
Sure.
It's fine.
Susan. But waking up in the hospital.
Yeah.
19 years old.
Yes. Yeah, I was 19 at the time, yeah. Only just. Like a week after my 19th birthday, yeah.
You wake up with at that point, had they amputated your...
No, they hadn't. No,
see, I thought, because it's they would have obviously tried to do as much as they could to.
They did all sorts of things. I mean, on life support, they did a thing called a phasiotomy, which don't Google it. But it's effectively where you just cut someone's flesh open to give it areas to swell. And so there've been a whole bunch of things done to me, and a bunch. I was given activated protein C, which was like a trial drug, which I think might have been instrumental in saving my life.
Cool.
Actually,
Wow.
it's kind of cool. And apparently, I signed the consent form to use that before they induced me into a coma, which I don't remember at all. It was interesting. I only found that out after, like, a few years after. I was visiting a hospital for some reason. I'm not sure why. And some guy came up to me in the sort of parking lot, and he was like, "Oh, I remember you." He's like, "I was the attending doctor when you came in." And he told me the story. He was like, "Yeah, you were compos mentis and you were signing things and all this sort of stuff." I don't remember any of it.
no memory.
While you're off your head.
Yeah. And by the way, you might want to redo your will because I wrote one for you when you signed it. Yeah. Everything's in my name at the
Everything goes
moment.
to
Go
me.
see a lawyer.
When
Check
you-
it out.
When you decided to get an ambulance, what were your symptoms when you go, "Oh, something's not right here"? Like, how did you know you were sick?
Oh yeah. So the day before I went to uni and I had like flu-like symptoms.
Yeah.
And so I just took myself home. And I'd spoken to my stepsister about it, and I was like, not feeling too great. And she was like, "Do you want me to take you to a doctor?" And I said, "No, because you're a 19-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Who needs to go to the doctor?"
Bulletproof.
Yeah. And so I went to sleep that night and had an awful night. If you've ever had a really bad flu, or I don't even think COVID gets to this point, in recent strains at least, where I couldn't walk, I was crawling to the bathroom, I had pouring hot water on myself in the shower, all this sort of stuff, passing out, waking up, and then when I got up the next morning, I couldn't stand. So I texted her and I was like, well, maybe I'll see a doctor.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah. So she was the one that took me to the doctor, to the hospital, and the hospital put me in the ambulance to take me to RPA.
Oh, they knew straight up.
Yeah, they were just like, "Look, this is not that kind of hospital."
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
You've had lots of operations over the years as well. Like you said, you then had to go through amputations, etc. What do you think was the hardest part physically back then, within the first 12 months post, being a quad amputee? And what today is your biggest physical difficulty?
Right. Okay. That's it's an interesting way of posing that question. I guess back then it was very different because the physical hurdles were very much curtailed by the pain that I was in. So learning how to walk with prosthetic legs isn't terribly hard, but because I had a lot of skin damage on my legs, well, everywhere really, because the meningococcal causes the septicemia, and then you get gangrene and you have skin grafts and all these wounds.
Can we play in that space? So
Yeah.
obviously meningococcal doesn't just, it affects from the limbs.
Doesn't discriminate, that bad boy.
Nah, so it goes, and you've obviously had some skin damage and skin grafts.
Yeah.
Can you, if you're comfortable about it, mate, you
Yeah,
can
sure,
answer
yeah.
anything you want. Talk us through that, like, why it hits different parts of your body and where they grab the skin from, because that would be, all I think about would be how much that would hurt.
Yeah, it hurts a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know if I should really be commenting on
Mate,
exactly how it works.
You know more than both of us, so let's go for it.
Yeah. But effectively, to my understanding, the meningococcal causes septicemia, which is kind of like a blood poisoning. And then downstream of that, you get gangrene. There's going to be a lot of pirate references, so just keep your eye on. And they obviously go to your extremities, right? So fingers first, then toes, and then hands and feet.
And then you get scurvy.
Then you get, yeah, that's right. and then they bring you a parrot.
Yeah.
And
And then they give you lime juice, and then everything's fixed.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and
He
nose as
just
well.
needed an orange.
Orange,
Oh,
yeah.
come on.
Nose as well.
Yeah, so it affects cartilage. So you'll
Okay.
see like I've got
Oh.
like half an ear and the what do you call it? Deviated septum.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also sometimes the lips as well. Although that cut, you see that scar there?
Yeah,
Referencing one bottom right of
that's-
your, on your jaw, near your
Yeah,
chin.
yeah. That actually came from I was incubated with a tube down my throat that helps you breathe
Yeah.
while you're on life support. And because all the skin is so affected by the meningococcal, the tube was hanging down here and just like cut straight
Oh my
through
God, 'cause it was
my
so-
skin like
Because
butter.
it was so thin. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So they had to just leave it and be like, well, if he survives, we'll sew it up. So, which fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
you've got
worked.
You've got so many scars. I mean,
Blends
one,
in.
Yeah,
Blends
yeah,
in.
The little
exactly,
one there.
yeah.
Blends
Yeah.
And this is probably one of the more badass ones that I have.
Mate, looks
anyway,
good.
so
Yeah.
it's cool,
Yeah.
yeah.
It really is. It's technically looks like a battle wound, so you could get away with that.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
you came out, you had a year where you still had your limbs. They were trying to fix them, but obviously there was a bit of problem. When was the chat where like, hey, like we're going to we're going to cut everything
amputate.
off.
Yeah, that I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks after the discussion. But so I was in RPA for about 5 weeks, I think, from memory. 2 of which was in a coma, and then they transferred me to Concord. And the reason Concord was used was because they have a burns unit, and my skin was treated very much like a burns victim, right? And so they were able to manage all of the skin grafts really well, change all the dressings, even do the amputations. They had some really top surgeons there. And so I think it was, first off, they were like, your legs are definitely going to have to go. And I remember not being too phased by that. I mean, obviously, it's upsetting, but I know that people get around in wheelchairs. I'm like, worst case scenario, it'll be a wheelchair, fine with it. And lost them below the knee as well, which they insured me it was going to be a lot easier to walk with prosthetics.
We've had a few below knees and above knees. The knee is the most important part about walking, coming from the guy in the wheelchair.
It is.
Because that
walking expert, Dylan Alcott, take it away.
Hang on. Walking 101, don't do it. 102, the knee joint's really important, I've been told.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Curtis McGrath, who's was a guest early with us, a canoe Paralympian gold medalist.
He's got one of each. Yeah.
Exactly. He's got a below and an above.
And above sucks.
And he's above is like $150,000 because he needs the technology for his knee to be able to the same capabilities. And these days they even process stairs in front of you and whatnot. But
And I can tell you right now, it's no different with arms. So my arms were amputated through the elbow. They call it elbow disarticulation from memory. And the problem with not having an elbow joint is that you have to have a mechanical elbow joint. And the way that a lot of them work is they have cables that go around your shoulders and stuff like that. And so I actually knew a guy a while back, was a friend of mine, Jeff, who had also lost his arms, but he had his elbow joint and a little bit of forearm. And that meant that he could slide into 2 myoelectric hands and not have to wear straps. And straps, you think, oh, so what, right? It's like wearing a bra. It is, but, right, taking it off and putting it on again by yourself is a bastard, right? So the amount of independence that you gain from just one joint, and I'm sure people with legs will realize that, I've seen people walk with above knee prostheses quite convincingly. Give them a set of stairs. I mean, it's a nightmare, right?
And literally have to move your hip to get the angle to get up.
Yeah,
and I'm with you and disagree, but you can take my legs all day, but having hands is pretty important.
Yeah,
so when in all seriousness, not being a goose, I can't get upstairs, and obviously can't stay in the shower and whatever. There's things I can't do, but working, upper limbs, one of my hands is a bit affected, but pretty much normal. It's really helpful.
Yeah. When
you found out about the arms and hands going, how was that point for you?
Yeah, that was extremely difficult because, I had a double prong thing of as you so well put, I guess, is that loss of independence when you lose the arms is paramount. But then I also had the part, I was a 19-year-old boy, and the only thing I really liked doing was playing guitar.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so now not only are you removing the independence, but you're also removing the thing that I enjoy about life. So it was a double whammy. But look, the alternative is you die, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but that sounds, that's very woo-woo. How'd you feel? Honestly, how'd you feel?
Oh, yeah, it felt horrible.
You got it?
Yeah, absolutely.
How long did that grieving period take?
And how did you handle that? Were you open about how you were feeling at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I talked
were?
Friends and family about it and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's great.
But I think, my mental state was probably pretty closely tied with my ability to move on physically. So I started to feel better mentally the more independent I became, I should say, with prosthetics. Yeah. The problem was that being held back by pain and that holding back your ability to progress physically also holds back your capacity to deal with it mentally. So probably quite a few months, I'd say, until I started to see real progress.
Yeah, love that. You did a TEDx speak in Sydney. Audience of more than 5,000. That was in May 2019.
A few more that went to mine. Whatever about it.
True.
Feels like a long time ago. 2019. That sounds like a long time ago now.
I mean, COVID years doubled though.
No,
that's
but
true. Yeah.
I think they don't count. So it's only 1 year.
Right,
you just sub them out.
No, they haven't. Yeah.
If it's not motivation or inspiration that you wanted to be known for when you hit that stage, 2 terms that they're bandied around a lot with disability, or you're motivational or you're inspirational. What lessons did you want people to take from your TED speak? your
Yeah.
TED
So,
talk, I should say.
I mean, I'm not a very motivational person, to be honest with you.
Well, I just watched the piece and you were like,
yeah.
I'm motivation and inspiration is not. You
I
had
think
other lessons you want
have
people
to get
learn.
up before 9 to be motivational. It doesn't really
Yeah.
count for me.
Cold showers at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
those
that's right.
guys.
You got to be one of
You
those.
got to have a
people.
deep voice. Yeah.
You got-
What's his Ted Robin? What's his that
Like
guy?
me. Thanks, guys.
Oh yeah, you're inspirational.
Oh, Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins.
Tim
Yeah.
Robbins.
Yeah, he jumps in an
Tim
ice
Robbins
bath
is the
at
guy of
5
Shawshank
a.m.
Redemption, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Tim
Tony
Robbins, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Great deep
Yeah.
cut by me
Yeah.
there. I'm happy with myself.
And that was a segue I was trying to make. So you chipped at the audience slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the lesson that you were hoping people took away from it?
I think it was that was more about finding advantage in adversity, right?
I like that.
And so, like, I usually use a lot of framing techniques to be able to look at what happened to me through a different lens, I guess. And if I can take something positive from it, then you have less regrets, and that thing didn't really happen in vain as much as, you know what I mean? Like, and it, oh, sorry. I realized that it's made me a really good problem solver. Just having a disability, because you have to think differently. The world is no longer designed for you; it's designed for someone else. And so, you sort of adapting to your environment and working out different and new ways of doing things can be a bit of you would call it a silver lining, but I would say just an advantage that you would have, because if you're not put in those situations where you're forced to think that way, things become very monotonous.
Pro tip for anyone going for a job interview with disability, like, when you have a job interview, Angus, you'd be like, what are your strengths? Oh, time management, whatever. Always say problem solving if you're disabled, and say exactly that. And every able-bodied person will be like, wow, that is so true. And it is. We are natural born problem solvers. Even just getting here, finding a park, both of us getting dressed, like, that's what you do. You've got to figure out a way to do it. You just got to do it differently, as you said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We're going to play in the space now. You are called DJ Hookie. This is an audio medium. Why are you called DJ Hookie?
Because I have hooks.
Because you got hooks for hands. All right. Talk us through why you chose hooks, how they work.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
probably
right.
one of the
Is there like a Iron Man, Tony Stark moment where this desk opens up and there's a whole bunch of hand attachments in front of you?
Can I lie and say yes?
You're an
Because
Would
that
be cool,
sounds awesome.
wouldn't it?
You're an
Well, I
idiot.
mean, I didn't. Mandy McCracken.
What else would you have as
she-
hands? Hooks? Fake
Yeah.
hands? What else would you go with?
Yeah, that's a good
Lego
question.
hands?
Maybe. I don't know. There's the attachments. I mean, the things that you can do with your attachments are incredible.
Well,
you can
yeah.
light a
You-
match.
You in particular
Yeah.
are extremely able with your hooks. Like we met 10 years ago. You don't remember. I'm pretty flat about it. But obviously I was just a plebe at that point. But now you care about my podcast.
I have to be forgiven if it was in a nightclub.
Yeah, well, hey, we're both
Yeah.
not in a great state. But I've seen on social media. I'm very impressed with the way that you go about it. So yeah, hooks. Why'd you go with hooks to start with?
Oh, I went with hooks to begin with because they're lightweight.
Yep.
So the prosthetics you'll see on Facebook videos when you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't get to sleep, those things are quite heavy, and so they're pretty cumbersome. And I've tried some of them before, and you can't really do as much as I can do with the hooks. The grasp strength on those prosthetics, maybe not the really new tech ones, which cost like probably 200 grand. Yeah.
The other ones is really hard to grab stuff.
Yeah.
I've noticed. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah. It is.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, you can get into the fly yourself to Japan and pay $50 million and try out the new, whatever. But I can't be bothered. And so I started out with these, and then I just really liked the look of them. I thought they were cool, and I also didn't like the look of the hand prosthetics because they were trying to be hands, and I never really understood that.
So like people
it?
would like second guess. Are they fake hands or not fake hands?
No one's second guessing it.
Yeah.
If you've seen these fucking
I
things,
would
like,
also-
no one's second guessing.
I'm with you, and I don't want to offend any of our arm amputees out there who use these fake hands.
Yeah.
Just for some reason, fake hands look way more fake than fake legs, don't they?
Yeah, they
Just-
do.
I don't know, why?
Yeah.
I don't know. there's
Also,
some-
like, if you could choose to have any limb, just get something crazy. Like, get something.
True.
Like, on my prosthetic legs, I used to get them to do like patterns and artworks, and a lot of amputees that I meet at the place that I get my prosthetics made will do that. They'll have patterns. And
yeah, you can get
know,
like flags and all
yeah,
kinds of
you
stuff.
can like jazz them up a bit. A lot of people do
Southern
like
Cross.
cosplay limbs.
Yeah.
Oh right,
Oh, that's
bit of
what I
anime
see.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Southern Cross, if you want to go full bogan,
Yeah.
do whatever you want. I'm serious. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think if the option is available for you to do something different to an actual limb, what's the point?
Again, audio medium. There's not one hook. There is two hooks in each hand. you just had a glass of water. We might
Yeah.
have a sip right now, just
Do you
because
wanna
there
do
is
it
a video.
Oh yeah, of course.
You can open them up, and you're currently clasping the water
Yeah.
and drinking it yourself.
And
How-
a full glass
Well,
of
this was
water.
the first thing I learned how to do, right?
Yeah. So
Because
if you-
alcohol is necessary.
yeah,
Sure,
we
that's-
all love a beer.
Mhm.
If you've got no, it's just in your elbow. How do you open and close the clasp? How does that
Oh
work?
yeah, I can show you how it works. I'm wearing a shirt, so it won't be that clear. But
Do you want me to help you roll up this shirt?
that won't help.
Okay.
It goes all the way around my back,
yeah,
but I
okay.
can explain it.
Oh, yeah.
So you got the two hooks there that are held together by rubber bands. I'm not sure whether we can see that on the camera. Sorry, there's two hooks that are held together by rubber bands.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then this cable runs all the way around my back, so it kind of works off tension. It's
Oh,
resistance.
shoulder
Oh.
tension.
So if I just push my arm forward, it'll pull that. Sorry, I'm adjacent.
That's interesting. It's
Okay.
got nothing to do with an intricate movement around your elbow. It's about you moving your
Yeah,
shoulders,
it's
rotating
shoulders.
them
Yeah,
forward or
that's right.
backwards.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You must
could've
need some
sat-
massages though, for real.
I do actually.
Hang
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
I could have sat here for 100 hours and tried to figure out how that worked.
Yeah.
And
That's
not,
cool.
And
It's
not guess that.
tension.
Yeah,
So
it's all
you roll your
tension.
right
So,
shoulder
yeah,
forward
shoulder
a little
blade.
bit.
So if I want to open that hook, I just push my arm forward and it pulls the
That's
cable.
So
sick.
cool. Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
And you've got it down to a fine art. Like I said, you can use a vape, which is tiny. You can
Yeah.
light a match.
Yeah, yeah.
How long did it? Was there hours of meticulous trying and get so intricate with
particularly.
movement? No.
Because you just learn on the go.
Well, you learn on the go, but also I think if I had one prosthetic arm, I would be shit at using it.
Do you have
Because
a?
you'd use your good arm for everything.
Yeah,
I was
Ah.
going to
Because I
say
have two, I'm forced to use it for everything. You get good real quick.
before your amputation, were you
Mm.
right or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Do you still have a preferred hand, or are you
Yes.
now ambidextrous?
Yeah.
we
so
put the
I
water on
was-
your left.
Yeah, that's okay. When I was
jerk Angus.
before I was when I was able-bodied, I would be right-handed. Then when I lost my arms, I actually got the left arm before I got the right arm because I had a bunch of wounds on my right arm. And then I started learning how to write with my left. I became ambidextrous
Oh.
for a short period until such time as I got the right one, and now I'm back to being right-handed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do the hooks weird people out?
Yeah.
How do you go with kids?
Oh, I love it. They're
Okay.
great.
Do you prefer kids' interactions and adults'
Yeah,
interactions?
adults probably more
it's-
awkward.
It's interesting. Yeah, kids are a lot more honest,
Hmm.
which I like. And the ages vary at points at which they're either fearful of it or they ask a lot of questions.
Mm.
And so it's kind of, I can't be too precise in that answer, but I can say that I've noticed a difference between girls and boys. That boys, the attitude is like, oh, this is cool. Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
a robot.
Yeah.
And girls tend to look really upset with me. I don't think they're upset at me.
Nah,
I think
for
they're
you.
upset at the world
Yeah, yeah.
for me. You know?
Right.
That stuff.
More empathetic, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're more empathetic.
I'm
Yeah,
just on a roll. Can I go going?
yeah sorry, Rob.
Please.
When you
Is that your line?
No,
on-
I didn't
on a
mean
roll?
that, but that
Is-
pun intended. When you go to if you went to they're pretty sharp. The
Yeah.
hooks,
Yeah,
a little bit sharp.
Do you want to feel it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
when you are, they're curved. at the bottom. If you were to
Yeah.
maybe relieve yourself in the bathroom,
Yeah.
Right.
have you had any sharpness accidents? Because that
When
would
you say
hurt.
relieve myself,
Yeah, I just would, just trying to be accommodating for everyone listening.
Yeah.
To drain the lizard.
Yeah.
Do a wee.
yeah.
Any dramas when you were in your early stages? Have you had any sharp
Oh,
object
I
cuts
probably,
or anything like that?
I
Anyway.
probably did.
Well, what if
see-
someone came behind you? And I know this is, and maybe women will enjoy coming into our bathroom for this moment. But if you're at a urinal at the
Yeah.
footy and someone comes in and goes,
That would never happen.
right, you go to you don't use urinal.
No, I
was
just
gonna
don't
say-
go to the football.
Oh, sure. You're at a nightclub. You're at a nightclub and you're at a urinal.
That's good. Yeah.
And because your arm it opens and closes by, rolling forward and back, if
Yeah.
someone were to come over and go, Nashy, not sure if that's your nickname, Tom, and pat you on the shoulder,
Mm.
pushing your arm forward,
It would open up, not
oh,
close
that
on
would
that.
open up.
It'd be fine.
Okay.
No,
But
it
it'd go
does, no, that
everywhere.
wouldn't control the hook. What it might control is the elbow. Because the elbow works on a completely different system where there's a cord that goes up the front, and I need to extend my elbow like that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, makes more sense.
But yeah, I mean, technically, yeah.
If you get,
careful.
if we're about to get into music as well,
yeah.
and as a big, when you make it hugely and you're traveling around the world playing Ibiza, and someone offers to buy you sweet hands that work via the nerves and you can open and close, do you take it or not?
Yeah, I've often thought about this. Are you talking about like a prosthetic that's quite
Correct. That is like
Right.
wide to your neurosystem, so you can open it.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new ones? It's if anyone hasn't, they're
Yeah.
like wide in and they can touch the nerve, say in your tricep, and then it knows to open or close, and
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
on your brain, and it's amazing. Would you
I'd
take
need
it?
more.
The
I'd need more-
Japanese $500,000 hands
Yeah.
we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
before.
yeah. I'd need more information, I think, because I mean, I was mentioning just before I had that friend who has myoelectric hands.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And just based on his experiences, I know things that he's told me about. They require batteries. Obviously, anything electric.
Yeah.
We really don't need anything else in our life that requires batteries at this point,
Yeah.
right? So that would be a bit of a bastard. If they broke, how do we fix it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's had problems as well where he he was telling me the story where he was about to go on holidays and he was vacuuming, and the hand came off the prosthetic arm, but stayed attached to the vacuum, so he couldn't go anywhere because his hand was
That is
attached to
so
the
good.
vacuum. And it was like during the holidays, so all of the prosthetists were on holidays.
Yep.
So he was on like a Skype call to Germany, trying to
Figure it out.
MacGyver the. So look, there's problems like that always come up with electric hands
Mm.
that I would really want to avoid.
Yeah.
I travel right now with a small box, and it's got like an Allen key
Allen
and a couple
keys,
of
yeah.
cables, and
Same
if
as my
anything
wheelchair.
happens, it's
Allen
like
keys are the
clack,
best,
clack,
mate.
clack.
Yeah.
and
Allen
you're
keys are the
sorted,
best.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Also,
Yeah.
DJ My Electrical Hands, not as catchy. as
Yeah,
DJ
yeah,
Hookie.
yeah.
So you probably need a rebrand. as
Yeah,
well.
DJ Mayo.
Yeah. All right,
yeah.
last one, Gustin.
Yes, but I got some questions as well.
Oh, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, do you feel when you see people, and we're talking about some of the reactions to your appearance, and especially people who, maybe don't have much interaction with the disability community, so therefore it is quite shocking,
Yeah.
inverted commas. Do you feel a responsibility to manage their misconceptions of your disability, or do you now just let them be themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what their misconceptions are
Yeah,
unless they
true.
were to actually bring it up. But I'm always open to answering questions about it. I think I encourage people asking questions, I should say, because I think that's the barrier that is to be broken down of people fearing things, and then therefore them becoming the abject because it is feared, because it's the unknown, right? Whether it's my responsibility or not, kind of probably assumes that there's someone in charge giving me that responsibility, and therefore I would have to say strictly no.
And so, my last question to you before we get to a segment called The Bowl of Uncomfortable is, you lost your limbs at the age of 19. Is there, in your opinion and your lived experience, a better age for it to happen? Do you think really young, where you know nothing but a life of disability and being quad amputee or amputee, teenage years like you were before making career choices? Like imagine if you had studied for 5 years and required certain mobility and then you lose all that time and experience. Or do you think an older age where you've lived a life as able-bodied, now you lose that mobility, but you might struggle with a life that that you're so used to?
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
It's a very interesting question. I really don't think I could answer it because I only know one of those paths. And it's, I mean, I guess I've met a lot of people without limbs that have lost limbs due to birth, and a lot of them don't use prosthetics because when you're growing up, your body's changing so much that it would be uneconomical to have a new limb every month, or just impossible to play catch up with that.
Yeah.
And so they end up using what's left of a limb and just dealing with what they have, right? And so I guess if it was from birth, you're probably less likely to use a prosthetic or technologies and stuff like that, just because you grow up one way, learning how to do everything as it is. In my position, I've been festooned with prosthetics, I think, because for the first 19 years I had limbs, and they're like, well, let's, emulate that. And that works quite well for me. I do think there are a few advantages to having had limbs in the past, in that you kind of, what the experience is like to be able-bodied, and also knowing what it's like to be disabled.
Both
you can
sides.
come from both sides. But yeah, as I said, I don't think I could definitively answer that.
Yeah. Tough one to sum
Don't
up.
get choked up, mate.
Jesus, right. I've got a great answer. It doesn't matter when it happens because it's not our condition, it's our decisions about it. Does that make sense? Same thing can happen at the same time to two people and live two very different lives because of how they perceive it. And obviously we perceive our disability quite similar because we are happy with our lives and we're lucky, but someone in your situation might feel very different no matter their age. I think it's, and also having, as you said, having people around you that can support you, no matter what age that is probably the most important part. I was birth, great family. I got a mate from birth, horrible family. We have very different lives, you know what I mean? Same way that your support network, I think, plays a massive role in that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And for everyone, I would say, regardless of whether they were disabled or not.
Well said. DJ Hookie, there's a big
Yeah.
part of meeting DJ. So you learned to DJ post illness,
That's
correct?
right.
Can you talk us through why you went down the DJ route? Obviously, like when I met you, you were playing that night. So
Yeah.
talk us through like why you went down that and how your career's been.
Yeah, so I guess I got into music more like after I'd gotten out of hospital and became independent again. I really wanted to work out a way to play the guitar again. And so that was actually my first goal. And I came up with a bunch of different really shit ideas and contraptions to be able to play guitar.
Not, in all seriousness, that'd be like I can't even imagine how hard that'd be with our hands. Like
Yeah, you've just I mean, that's the whole point. Is like you've got to start asking yourself particular questions, like, well, what do I want to get out of, let's say, playing the guitar? You know, do I want to be the next Jimi Hendrix? Well, no, but because I probably wouldn't have been anyway. So what I really want to get out of it is writing music again and playing with my friends, and that kind of simplifies the solution such that you can work backwards to solve the problem of playing guitar again. And so I ended up coming up with an idea that I could play guitar on my lap and open tune it, and then design a device that was kind of like a slide and a pick holder, and I could play open tune.
John
And
Butler
so-
kind of does that, doesn't he?
He plays slide guitar.
Yeah, like
Xavier Rudd?
Xavier Rudd?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people play slide guitar, so this is kind of like a version of that. But they would play sort of lead slide, and I was playing kind of like a rhythm slide, if that makes any
Yep.
sense to anyone, right? So anyway, but I realized that I took that further than I ever had. So I ended up starting a band and touring and stuff like that, recording music. And then I got into the music sort of scene, I guess you would call it, or the community, for lack of a better description.
No, it is, mate. I'm a
Yeah.
part of it. It's a great community. Yeah.
And knowing people, and I started doing some work experience, doing events and stuff, and then looked at the whole DJing thing. And my best friend was sort of doing some DJing around the traps, and it was kind of like play song after song DJ, not DJs as we know them today, which back in 2005, that's more what it was in the particular scenes that I found myself in. And so we decided that we wanted to do it ourselves, and rather than the traditional routes that people would go down of buying equipment and learning how to DJ and wearing annoying clothes and things like that, we thought, well, what if we just sort of started at the end and worked backwards? So we just started a nightclub, and we booked ourselves as the main DJ. So we started the club. We didn't know much about running clubs at all. I knew less about DJing. And we just had an opening night, and we decided to make it a weekly thing that might last a couple of months. And we controlled everything, like the decorations and employing the people and the drinks and the promotions and the branding and then we would just be the headline DJs.
Love that.
But the problem was I'd never DJ'd, so we didn't expect it to be that busy. But we packed a 200-person club out with like 500 people, and it was sardines. And I just had to get up, and Chris was just like, that's where the play button is. Like, have fun kind of thing. And I just had to learn on the go. But it was kind of great because I was thrown in the deep end, and nobody learns quicker than if they're in the deep end,
Damn right.
I think, And so, I just learnt from there. And then before too long, people started asking us to play other parties, and then traveling interstate to play and international. And we did music festivals and became legitimate DJs after a few years. Yeah.
Produce your own music or just DJ that you do as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put a link to your Spotify, whatever, to make sure
Sure,
people can
yeah.
hear them out.
It's all below us as well in the show notes at DJ Hookie on Instagram. Website is tomnash.com. Let's get to the bowl of uncomfortable. I'll explain to you and maybe new listeners as well what the bowl of uncomfortable is. This is a question that we ask our people who listen, our followers on socials, to send through questions that they wouldn't feel comfortable asking you in person, but maybe they'd be curious to ask.
Right.
Some of them are, borderline sketchy and controversial. Some of them are really nice. And a big shout out to Harry, 14 years old, listens to ListenABLE in the car with his mum, and he has asked through her Facebook page, how do you use a phone?
Oh, yeah. How do I use a phone? Well, a smartphone, I'm guessing is what
I
he's
guess so.
talking
I
about.
think,
Yeah.
Nah, he's 14. He's talking about the
He's
Nokia.
got, he's got one of the rotary knobs.
No. I think
What's your high score on
Fucking
Snake?
millennials.
Yeah, I think it's iPhone, yeah.
So trendy.
Yeah.
I use a stylus pen.
Great solution.
It's a good solution, but often I lose them, so I have to carry like a few of them around with me.
Well, the new one has the new Samsung has an inbuilt stylus.
Mate,
Right? Is that? Yeah, that would be a bastard to get out all the
Oh,
time.
of course, the
Yeah.
finicky
Yeah.
little button to get it out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Why don't you put
here
a
I
bit
am
of-
thinking I solved the problem.
why don't you put a little bit of rubber on the
Yes.
end of the hook to give a bit of dexterity?
And that's exactly what I thought of doing a few years ago, and I had to go to an engineer to find out whether I could do it. And he said, no, the whole hook would have to be redesigned.
Why?
Well, there's a thing called so conductivity works in a certain way that
science.
it is totally engineering
I
and
get
science. So when you use a pen, it's conductive, but with this, it isn't necessarily conductive. So you need like a big wet squishy thing attached to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you use it. Do you have a smartphone though?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mine comes from Paul on Instagram, but also from Dylan in the studio. Hooks on or off when you're doing the extracurricular adult activities at night?
Both.
Wait, what do you go with mostly?
Off, I'd say.
Off?
Yeah, because I'm quite a tactile person, so I prefer off.
Another one from Dylan in the studio, part 2. Get some weird fetish action with the hooks when you. Do you ever had that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Sweet. Love that. That's sick. Mate, you would. I've had some whack stuff happen and I'm in a wheelchair, but there's a lot of wheelchairs around, not many hooks, so I reckon you would get some. Mate, you could even go like full OnlyFans and have some weird. Have you ever thought about that?
No, I haven't, but I could probably do it. Yeah,
you
do. You do get the odd inbox from.
Hey, if the DJ career really quietens down, there's another option.
That's it. Yeah, only hooks.
Only hooks.
Only hooks.
But I think, look, I think honestly, I've spoken to other amputees, and I think females cop it more than males do.
For sure. As a guy in a wheelchair, I had some very rare occasions which we can't talk about on this. But I've got some friends in wheelchairs who are extremely great people, but also good looking, and they have crazy amounts of blokes who.
And Cherie Louise, a very early episode of ours. She's an amputee, and she's
Cartwright, Kelly Cartwright.
Yeah, Kelly Cartwright. They get a lot more than I presume the males would.
Maybe it's just because we're uggos as well.
Oh,
about ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, what about you putting Tom in that category?
No, maybe we're not as hot. What's wrong with that?
I mean, I think you're both beautiful.
Oh, yeah, cheers.
Here's the hard-hitting question, and I don't know what this refers to, so you might have some context to this.
Yeah.
Linda Loves asks.
Hey, is that a real person?
Yeah.
Linda Loves.
Nice. Hello. You've been vocal against support groups, obviously specific to your lived experience, calling them a waste of time.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Does that make sense?
It's a real deep cut. That's something that's happened, isn't
it? Yeah. I went to a bunch of. I mean, obviously, they're not a waste of time for everyone. Some people like them.
Okay.
But I was taken to a couple earlier on, and it was just
like an amputee support group.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Oh, right.
Because I was a bit cautious asking that because I'm like, I don't know the actual context to it.
Right.
That makes more sense. I didn't know that was
amputee support groups. Yeah, and it was just kind of but they would congregate a bunch of amputees together, and they would tell their stories and everything like that. And it just didn't seem like it was helping anyone. Like people left more upset than they did when they walked in.
Fair enough.
And then there were a lot of people who would get up and try and one up other people that like, oh, you've lost one leg. Well, you shouldn't.
I've got 4.
I've lost both legs. What are you complaining about? Which I don't think is helpful either.
Yeah. And for empathetic people as well, like maybe wearing that trauma a little bit as well, you're putting that onto somebody else with that energy. That'd be a big weight leaving that room sometimes, maybe.
I think so, yeah. And I mean, like you were talking about having a support network around your friends and family, which I think is a really great thing. And people who are, they don't have to necessarily all be disabled. They don't have to be one thing or another. But you have a variety of people whose common element is that they support you as a person. And if you're around other people that are just getting on with their lives, you will end up doing that as well. Like what's that quote of like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future,
Love that.
Also really confusing if you said, I'm going to AA.
Yeah.
Mate, Tom, you a pisshead. No, Amputees Anonymous, mate. That would be confusing as.
Not bad, Dylan.
Oh, very good.
That's
also,
very good.
how can amputees be anonymous?
I don't know. Exactly right. Trying to hide it. I was like, you got hooks.
Maybe with one of those hands.
Yeah.
No one will know.
All I could think about was, I got to go to AA again.
That's good.
Hey, one thing that I didn't know about you is how well you speak, mate.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story in a vulnerable way. You're also a keynote speaker. I didn't know that. You get represented by some speaking bureaus that I do too. How do people get in touch with you? Is it your website or do you want it to go? Because like corporate people listen to this. Get Tom in to talk because he does it in a really authentic, vulnerable way, as we just found out. And I think it's a good, obviously part of your business as well.
Yeah, you can find me at my website tomnash.com, or at least 3 or 4 nights of the week I'll be found at the barbershop in Sydney with a gin martini in my hook.
Mate, we'll come up and have a gin with you, mate. Seriously, you made a big effort to fly interstate to where we are.
I believe.
Drove.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it because we've been trying to get you on.
Thanks so much for the invitation.
You're a good man, mate. So hopefully this change some perceptions from some people out there, but also get you some gigs as well.
We love it. A big thank you.
Oh, no, hang on.
Whoa.
Ability Fest.
Whoa.
You got to play Ability Fest.
Do you know what Ability Fest is?
My music festival.
No, why
There
are
you
you
go.
both yelling at me? What's
I
that?
own a music.
Sorry.
I own a
Good point.
music festival where we make it fully accessible for people with disability. Platforms, Pathways, Auslan, a sensory room.
Oh, yeah.
We have acts for disability play. You got to play.
Oh, sure.
I don't know why I haven't asked you before.
There you go.
What an
Got
idiot.
to,
Yeah.
At least we've secured the gig, everybody.
Yeah.
Love it.
Done.
Did actually be perfect.
Well, we've had Flight Fac and presets.
Beat Your
and
Ducks,
Beat Your
closed
Duck
last
and
time.
bloody you.
DJ
Done.
Hookie. Love
Can
that.
I afford you though? What do you charge?
It's
It's a charity event. It's for
Oh,
kids
charity,
with
then more.
True.
Well, it's to help people with disability. You bastard. Right? You're benefiting off it and you're not giving back.
We'll have a bonus episode for you on next Monday's
Yeah.
episode of ListenABLE. But to you, DJ Hookie, Tom Nash, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
for
Man.
And everyone, thank you for listening. Make sure you share, tell your friends. Love you.